Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Achtung Millwall. Now, ahead of each edition of the show this season, we are, of course, running an example question from Pundit, punditgames.co.uk. It's a great board game, makes a fantastic Christmas present, birthdays, bar mitzvahs. I'm sure you give things on bar mitzvahs, not that I know much about it. But it's a great game. You have to answer 5 questions in succession on a board, and you score a goal against your mates or your family or whoever you choose to play with. So an example question from this wonderful board game. It's another English national team question. It's Bobby Robson's Ipswich captain who led his side to great success in the 70s and 80s. At the 1982 World Cup, with Kevin Keegan injured, this fullback was tasked with leading the Three Lions out for a crucial clash against Spain. So we have 591 appearances for Ipswich, 1966 to 82, 22 goals. He then moved to Southampton, 103 appearances. Wow, 103 for Southampton, 1982 to 85, 3 goals there. Then he finished his playing career at Stoke City, 38 appearances in 1985 to 87. He played 42 times for the English national team. He coached with Birmingham in 2001, Colchester in 1990 and Stoke City 1985 to 89. Basically an Ipswich legend, a well-known Ipswich figure who played for his country in the 1982 World Cup. Answer to that question at the end of today's show.
You're listening to Achtung Millwall, broadcasting from the beautiful South Birmingham. Accept no substitute.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to what is rapidly becoming my favourite Achtung show. Yes, you're listening to the voicemail show. I need a snappy title for it. I can't just call it the voicemail show, can I, listeners? I should call it, I don't know, something Latin. What with me prattling on about the venerable bead ahead of each game, I should maybe call it Vox Populi. Vox Populi de Zampa. I don't know if that's Latin, but there we are. We speak, listeners, in the aftermath of that 2-2 draw on Saturday. Mill drawing 2 each with Hull City. Strange game, proverbial game of two halves, as the cliche has it. Early goal, I thought fortunate, really, when you look back at it on the highlights reel. But fortune favours the brave. It was a great cross in by Joe Bryan that found its way through, let's put it that way, found its way through to Duncan Watmore, who slammed home with a very tight angle in off of Hull City goalkeeper Ryan Alsop. 1-0 for the Lions, unfortunately, in the celebration of that opening strike. Watmore twisted his ankle on the sheet, advertising sheeting, Sky Bet, I think it was, wasn't it? So there's an ironic twist of fate there. 1 each shortly afterwards, however. Unfortunately, a good old-fashioned plain hump down the middle. I was speaking to Steve Lee in our first show of the weekend. This is part 2 of a 2-parter, and he gave it credit as a great pass. I mean, I'd take my hat off to if it was intended as a great pass. Personally, it looked more like a straightforward lump down the middle between Jake Cooper and Wes Harding, who berated Danny Mack. We'll come back to Danny Mack, of course, listeners. Very much the object of a lot of the voicemails that you'll be listening to in this particular show. But Danny was maybe more obviously at fault for the second goal, with the 2-1 go-ahead goal, as I called it in the live stream. Unfortunately, there, yes, he did head across the face of his own goal. Folly, McNamara's folly, which allowed Hull to slam home for 2-1. In a kind of a defensive collapse, really, which is a worrying thing to see. We've seen it a few times over the course of this year. I can't quite fathom out what goes on there, whether it is a loss of confidence, whether we do hound our players to a disproportionate amount of the day. I don't know. What do you think, listeners? Do we get on their cases too much? I do take the point that you pay your money, you're entitled to your opinion. But when you look at some of the stuff that gets posted online at times, I just wonder whether we are too harsh on our players. I do think that at the moment, Danny's going through a very, very difficult period in his life. And I've just wanted to say before we get into today's show that, I empathise with where he's at. It cannot be an easy situation to be in. He was hooked at half time for the much brighter, more dynamic Brooke Norton-Cuffy in the second half. And a much improved second period, as you will by now know, listeners. 2 each when Joe Bryan slotted a fantastically taken chance from the left into the right-hand corner of the goal. And then really it was Millwall pressure for the whole of the half. So much better and improved performance in the second half. What led to that collapse in the first half, where the game really, which was winnable, got away from us, is a matter of speculation, dear listeners. So now let's get into the voice. We've got quite a few to get through. Huge thank you to everyone that's sending me stuff. I really do appreciate it. I will do my level best to cram in everyone's messages into this show. But first up, we're going to have a quick listen to via Twitter. You can DM me these messages on the Twitter direct message, listeners. Just press the little audio symbol in the bottom right hand corner of your direct message at Achtung Millwall and send me your message. But this one's from Big Paul. Huge thank you to Paul to start us off today.
Evening, Bish. That was a bit better. I woke up a bit hungover today. I think I was out celebrating the point. I woke up on my mum's sofa in Hastings, as you do. Danny Mack's had a bad day at the office, and he can't really... Listen, I think sometimes... I'm probably going to get pelters for this, but I think sometimes we are on the players too much for things, and it can't help. Like I said, I'm going to get pelters for that, but it's part and parcel of the club, and we, players sort of sink or swim. But I think if you're having a bad time with it, I don't think it's going to be good for you. And the old crowds on your back, and then you make a couple of mistakes, and then it's just like, yeah, Rowett did the right thing taking him off at half time. But I like Danny Mack. He's good. He's solid. I like him defending as a right back, as a right wing back, getting forward. He's going for a bad time. Hopefully he sorts it out. But yeah, it was a bit better. But mate, it'd be nice to fucking win home. I missed the second goal. So I've sort of come out of the ground, didn't get to enjoy that point. I felt like I've just watched it 2-1, and I feel like we should have won the game. But ifs and buts. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought he might have been gone by now. Would it have been a good opportunity to go in to the international break with getting a new manager in? But it's like the okey cokey with Rowett, win 2, draw, lose 2. He's on his way out. Wait for that third final nail in the coffin for him to fall off the cliff, and then he pulls one out of the bag, and then it's like this cycle of Gary Rowett. But it's like, and the question is, who'd you get as well? Do you know what I mean? I've not always been a Rowett out. I think he's good. He's a manager that's not going to take us up, I don't think, and he's not going to take us down. He gives us stability. Sort of like, what more do you want? But yeah, it'd be nice to take a gamble and go for it, wouldn't it? I think, But I'm one of these saddos who wouldn't mind going down, because if we were taking a gamble, I would look at ticking some new grounds off that I ain't been to. But that's just me. Do you have to say a thank you to my sponsor for this, Golden Balls, who's probably doing his 15-minute workout at his Pure Gym now. That's old Golden Balls, Phil, giving me every time he hears me on here. So that's why I'm doing another one, because he said, I was at the gym, and all of a sudden I heard this oik come on. So I call him Posh Phil. Anyway, I've left that in at the end, but I don't know if you can leave it in.
Wide-ranging call there from Paul, covering the whole gamut of subjects, from being, alcoholic in Hastings, the pressure on Danny Mack. I do think it's a real thing. I touched on it already, Paul, and I do think that we heap extra special pressure on players like Billy. Danny at the moment is going through a hard time, and people at the Den were quick to react. I mean, I heard a Gary Rowett, your football is shit song on Saturday. I think some people just enjoy the sport of hounding someone. I don't know if that may be people out there might be screaming at their speakers. I don't know, but you see it so much online. There's a certain kind of bloodlust stroke pleasure in chasing down, like a fox hunt, chasing down the quarry. And I do think at the moment, I think we're going to speak fairly about Danny. He's a solid Millwall. Yes, he is Millwall through and through, like you, me, everyone that's listening to the show. That doesn't give him a special pass, but equally it shouldn't give any more pressure heaped upon his shoulders than somebody else might get, just because they don't come from a Mill background. I do think, Dan's a good player. I don't think he's a great player. I think, if I was to sit opposite him, I think that he can certainly play football better than me. Let's put it that way. But I do think he's at the upper end of his level. All players have their level, don't they? But he's certainly going through a tough time at the moment. I do hope it works out for him, because I like Danny Mack, and I think all Millwall fans should maybe just keep in mind that pressure on a player doesn't help him. Certainly won't help him through a tough time at the moment. But it was refreshing to see Brooke Norton-Cuffy bring a bit more pizzazz into the side on Saturday. Turned the game, didn't it? Thank you to Paul there, though. Next up in our little list of got quite a few voicemails to get through. We're going to go with Matt Richards. Have a listen to Matt.
Hello, Nick. Matt Richards, driving back from the game. Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating, isn't it, really? That second half shows you that we can play football, play good football, some really good football. Really good one-touch stuff, putting pressure on, creating chances. But the first half is just, first half was just awful. Worse than against Swansea or Leeds. Just, scoring the goal was a good start, and you kind of think, okay, well, this is good. This is just what we needed, early goal. And then we just sat back and let them into it, gave them the possession, and they're a good possession side. And then just similar to the Swansea game, defensive howlers. What are you going to do? Suddenly we're 2-1 down, and we're lucky to go in 2-1 down at half time. I thought it was just an appalling half, and it's easy to dig out players, isn't it, really? But Danny had a shocker. But I don't think anyone played particularly well the first half. Nisbet, I just don't think. Well, I'm hoping he's not fit, because if that's him fit, then he's not really giving us much up front without Bradshaw. But then, and he had to change it. Right, had to change it, and he did. Why he didn't change it before, I don't know. But it's this thing in football: you can't take off players before half time. Doesn't seem to make sense to me. If it's not working, then change it. But he did, and it's just a different game. Norton-Cuffy came on. I thought he did really well. Brian down the left. He hasn't got as much pace as perhaps he used to, but he's got quality, and he showed that with his goal. And it was just a really good second half performance. Just gutting we didn't get the win. We probably deserved the win, really. Players wise, Casper Denor is just well, I don't know. He's just brilliant. He's just the one touches he does. He just sets the tempo of the game. He's playing balls forward, through gaps, spotting runs, just unbelievable, mate. And it's just, as long as we've got him in the team, I think we've got a good chance. And Bradshaw obviously made a huge difference. Just his tenacity and the hunger, he just motivates the whole team, motivates the whole crowd. And that's why we had a good second half. It was just a shame we couldn't take it. We didn't have many clear-cut chances, did we? Cooper had a header, Bradshaw's flick, he had a header. Obviously, Denora had a great shot, unlucky with that, and obviously Marco at the end. That's what you're going to get with youngsters, he's going to, Sonny saw the headlines and blazes it over. So, I'm not going to be too critical of him there. But that's the performance we want, so we need more than that. So I guess it's good to have that in the second half rather than the first half. So you come away with a bit of positivity, and I think it says a lot that, a lot of the crowd were kind of clapping the team off. So we've got to take this forward, learn from this. Saville, you just got to think that Saville's got to come into the team, because I think he does make a difference. Campbell, I think, is getting better, but he's not a Saville. So any Saville we know as well. But international break. A couple of tough games when we come back, but bit of positivity to take into those games after the break. So fingers crossed for that. Okay, cheers, Nick. Come on, your lines.
Big thank you, Matt. The Saville situation. That's a strange one, dear listeners, isn't it? And I know in this professional realm they call football that personal grudges shouldn't play a part in team selection, but we all live in the real one, you and me, dear listeners, don't we? Where we do know that issues outside of football play a part. What is it about George Saville's performance that is falling short, that Gary Rowett sees Alan Campbell, who has improved, I hasten to add, but why would you pick Campbell over Saville? I don't understand that choice. It doesn't appear to have any logic to it, so it takes you down the roads of thinking, well, what's his grudge, what's his problem? I don't know, it's all pure speculation, but then that's what podcasting's all about, listeners. That's one of the joys of being a podcaster, is that you get to speculate on things about which you know nothing. But no, I mean, I thought when Saville came into the game, as in the performance at Plymouth, you know, he really looks the part. He's hungry, he's Millwall, and he's an on-field leader, which is something we do lack. Gary Rowett said that we lack it. So I don't understand that particular selection. I dare say Gary Rowett will come up with some, you know, old flannel that like he does in his post-match conversations. His situation does seem to be a strange one, doesn't it, listeners? I mean, clearly Gary Rowett was under a lot of pressure. I think that's eased. 4 points from 6 in the last 2 games has clearly taken some of the weight off his shoulders. I did read on Twitter just before we started recording this show that James Berylson, I'll call him because I don't feel a bit odd to call him Jimmy. But anyway, James Berylson was over for the game. I didn't realise that on Saturday. And Gary Rowett must have felt himself to be in a tight spot at half time, because clearly things were going badly awry. But he has an ability, an innate Houdini-esque ability to, you know, escape from the clutches of disaster. What was that movie? It had Tony Curtis in it. Was that Houdini? Did he play Houdini? He was like the master escapologist in a circus. I think it was based on Houdini, if it wasn't named. That is Gary Rowett. He is the master of disaster, as Bruce Springsteen would have it. But big thank you there to Matt Richards. Next up, let's have a listen to Graham Payne.
Hello Nick, Graham Payne here with my thoughts of yesterday's game. No surprise that Rowett kept the same team from Tuesday's win at Plymouth. Thought we started off all right. Got the early goal from Watmore. Could have had another one when nice move, and Campbell, instead of going across the goalkeeper, tried to put it in the near post, and he put it in the side netting. We then, obviously there was 2 defensive errors and we find ourselves 2-1 down. You could see that the team's heads dropped, and for the rest of the half it was poor, and you felt that Hull would get another one and kill the game off. We're getting at half time, and obviously Rowett did the right thing, taking Danny Mack off, who I thought looked shot yesterday playing at the Den. He also brought on Tom Bradshaw for Watmore, or I think was injured, but who knows. Second half, I thought we played quite well, yeah. Nice goal from Joe Bryant, took that well to make it 2-2, and then I thought we was on the front foot for the rest of the half. We were harassing them. They didn't play the ball around like they were doing in the first half. And we could have won it in the end. That was a lovely ball from SA, put a marker in, but he just snatched his shot and it went over the bar. But yeah, I thought it was a much better performance in the second half. And it was proved by the fact that the crowd gave the team a standing ovation or applause at the end. I mean, you don't normally get that for a draw. So I think, everyone was pleased with the second half performance, and hopefully we can build on that. Again, I've got a question why George Saville is not getting in the team in front of Alan Campbell, who, to me, brings nothing to the team. Saville come on, he put himself about, and it's unbelievable in my eyes that he's not getting a start. Hopefully, after this break, Rowett will see that Saville needs to start. There's no doubt in my mind. Man of the match, I've got to give it to Casper De Norre. I thought he had an excellent game. He seems to be getting better and better with every game I see him. So, yeah, he looks a good signing. So we now got to 2-week break, and I think the next game back, I think if I'm right, is Preston away. But let's see what we can do. Come on, you Lions.
Thank you, Graham. Yeah, Preston away, dear listeners. I've actually got a rail ticket to go up there for that one, even though it's a morning kick-off now. Well, it's the brink of the afternoon, so I should probably go to it. This is the madness of following Millwall, dear listeners. I originally bought a ticket to go up there for the afternoon fixture. Originally it was a 3 o'clock kick-off. Then, in its infinite wisdom, Sky Television changed the kick-off to a 12:30 start. So after some fiddling around with the app on the phone, I managed to get an alternative train going up there. So if you're in Preston, or any of you other mad people up there, do come over and say hello and vent your spleen on Achtung Millwall. I'll be at Deepdale. Despite the fact it's on live on Sky Television, listeners. That's the madness of following the Lions, isn't it? Anyway, there we are. I'm preaching to the choir here. Next up, let's have a listen to Angelo Miliotto.
Hi Nick, it's Angelo, mate. Yeah, interesting game today, mate. I was very, very scared in that first half because Hull were just very, very, very good and sharp, mate. And I was getting worried that we were going to get smashed up, to be fair. Poor old Danny Mack, his head just went today. I don't know if it was the early booking and then the mistake, but it had to come off, mate. You could just tell it. You could just tell his body language that his head had completely gone. It's a shame, mate, but obviously it was a poor performance by him. Yeah, second half, we got to give some credit to Rowett, mate. He changed it, and it was just a completely different game. And the first half, I was saying to my son, not enjoying this, are we going to get a season ticket next season watching this and blah, blah, blah. It was almost like I didn't care. But in the second half, it just brought me back to life, got me out of my seat a few times, and that's the Millwall we want to see, don't we? And I feel like the players are fighting for the manager as well. Like against Plymouth, after the final whistle, you could see all the subs celebrating and, big smiles on their faces. Honestly, I can't make my mind up about Ray. I really can't. But yeah, anyway, second half, fantastic. Norton Cuffy, that is the best he's played. I was one of his critics, but he shut me up today when he come on second half. Fantastic. I think Bradshaw made a difference. Joe Bryan's getting fitter and fitter and fitter and getting better and better and better, mate. You can start to see that Premiership quality, and I love the way he sat that defender down when he scored. And there's no two ways about it, mate. I am absolutely in love with Casper Denor, mate. He is just sensational. Everything about him is just brilliant. Even his short little passes are sexy. It's just very, very rare he misses a pass. I'm just now worried that are we going to be able to keep hold of this guy? But on social media, mate, he's posting some very positive stuff. He loves the club. The fans have now responded to him singing his name. The guy is a super, super, super player. Saville come on, really looked up for the fight. Just a shame that Maku couldn't put that last chance away right at the death. That would have been an absolutely beautiful second half display from the boys. Man of the match, it's got to be Joe Bryan and Casper Denor. I think they were both great today, and they're both getting better and better and better. People were questioning Denor, but he wasn't fit. You can now see what the guy's got. He even nearly scored a worldie today as well, didn't he? So, Essay looked good when he come on as well, mate. That ball to Imaku was fantastic. Really positive second half. It brought the enjoyment back to me that was missing in the first half. I loved it. I loved that second half, and I applauded the team off, and well done to the team. That's what we want to see. So we have a little break now, and we'll come back and get our 1 loss, 1 win and 1 draw. Looks like that's what we're going to be doing this season. But no, I'm relatively happy tonight. So well done to the team, and come on, you Lions.
Some interesting points there by Angelo. I make you right, Angelo, about enjoying the enjoyment part of that message, because, like all of us in the den, I mean, if you listen back to the other show that I did at half time, I think we were collectively feeling pretty much like it was the same old song. And, it's been for such a long time now that disappointment has been the order of the day at the den. And the turnaround in the second half was quite something. I agree with your points about Danny Mack. I mean, we've touched on that already. One thing I will say, and you mentioned Casper De Norre, I also rate very highly, but something I'd ask everyone listening to this show, I'd ask everyone around the den to think about is the power of social media to both be positive, such as Casper De Norre. He put out a post, I can't remember how he worded it now, but it was words to the effect of, "This is a beautiful club." Talking about Millwall, yes, that is how he's described us, as a beautiful club. And I just thought it was a fantastic turn of phrase. It was really uplifting. And just as you can uplift everyone, it uplifted me, I think it would uplift you, dear listener, if you read it. This beautiful club. Yes, he's Belgian, so he's got English is a learned language for him, so it might sound a bit flowery sometimes, but it was a really nice choice of wording, and more power to him. But it had a collective lifting quality, and I think, as Angelo said, I've noticed online he interacts well with people. Now, not everyone can do that, and obviously, by the same, the other side of that coin, the positive side has a negative side, which is when you see Danny Mack going through the mill online. There was a poll that I think it was deleted, but are people asking whether we should keep Danny Mack or Murray Wallace at in the January transfer window. Now, I thought that was a really poor choice of talking points. It was put online to generate a talking point, and that's if you're doing any kind of online show or whatever, that's what you've got to do. But it's not a choice of one or the other. There is no Murray or there is no Danny. The decision as to whether players move along or not is based on managerial. It's not like a mob decision, is it? But secondly, both Danny, I don't know Danny, I've never met him. I have had some contact from Murray when I was ill. Murray Wallace was one of the players. I won't mention some of the others, but they sent me messages. And I'll tell you what, listeners, if you go through a tough time yourself and you get a personal contact from a player, just wishing you well, we don't know each other. It was just a message sent to me to wish me well, get better, and all the usual stuff. Nothing more than that. But it makes a big difference to your assessment of that person as a human being. And I've got a lot of time for Murray Wallace. None of us believe him to be a reincarnation of Paolo Maldini. He's not going to be the next Cafu. He is a very solid, honest, journeyman Championship League One level fullback, central defender. Absolutely nothing wrong with that in the world. Same with Danny Mack. Now, I don't know Dan, so I can't say the same, but I get a sense he's a solid bloke, Millwall fan, and he's going through a tough time. I dare say Murray's going through a tough time because he's been dropped, so that's never easy on a player. But the capacity of social media to both lift you and depress you is it interesting? It's a dangerous thing, I think. So I just wanted to mention that because both Danny Mack and Murray Wallace going through their own versions of a tough time at the moment, and both are good, solid Millwall players. And whether they have to move along, maybe Danny needs a change of scene, I don't know. But that should be a career decision taken with his family and management, and maybe things work out for the best for him with a change of location. I don't know. Not. I don't work with him, but Murray Wallace, I've got a lot of time for Murray. He didn't have to send me a message, and he did. And I take my hat off to him. Anyway, enough preaching on the pulpit from me. Let's have a quick listen now to Adam Wicks.
Morning, Nick. Adam Wicks here, just leaving a quick note after yesterday's 2-2 draw with Hull. I think credit where it's due. Decent win in the week at Plymouth. Very dogged performance. First half Yesterday, though, very ragged. Danny Mack obviously had a nightmare 45 minutes. Setup was interesting. I suppose it's commendable that he's tried something different. It hasn't worked, and then he's corrected it at half time. I thought the second half. So I don't want to dwell on the first half too much. Second half is pretty much the sort of performance I think most people would love to see week in, week out at home. Lots of attacking endeavour, lots of committed challenges, really good tempo with the passing, decent subs at the right time, in the right positions. Thought SA looked decent when he come on. Obviously, a really good through ball to Amaku. It's a shame he couldn't have put that away because it would have been the cherry on the cake. But I think overall, promising signs, I think, and hopefully we can sort of carry on in that vein after the international break. Yeah, decent. Come on, you Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.
Big thank you, Adam. The second half was very much what a few of our callers have mentioned. Really, it's very much what I want to see from Millwall, which is, in the end, just a full-blooded, gutsy performance. You know, I'm not of the modern footballing era. I don't know if this is going to come as any surprise to you, dear listeners, but I'm not born into the era of the Pep beautiful game approach. If you give me traditional Millwall fighting spirit, then that's really good enough for me, and I just want to go to the den every other week and see something like what we saw in the second half yesterday. It was really really warming to see it. So that's what we want, Gary Rowett. If you listen to this show, I don't know if you do or you don't, but more of the same is all I ask for. Anyway, let's have another listen now. Jim Hackett.
Hi Nick, Jim Hackett. Just a couple of comments about yesterday's game. It was certainly a game of sort of two halves, with probably two halves of the first half. It was a sort of a typical Rowett masterclass in how to win, lose, and then end up drawing a game. So very disappointed after a good start that we managed to gift them two goals. And as much as people will be going on and on about Danny Mack, I think his confidence is a little bit shot, and he just showed yesterday that probably not the best place to play him in the back four and allow him to sort of come up short like that. But that's football, and they'll get paid very well to do a job, and unfortunately if he couldn't do it, then I think the writing's on the wall there. I think when Norton Cuffy came on, it did make a difference. It made the lad Philogene have to defend rather than just stand out on the left wing and do his damage. But overall, I think the game, we looked like at half time we could have been sort of well under the cosh, and we were coming out for the second half, and that is exactly, I think, what Millwall fans have been looking for quite a while now, where we actually get on the front foot and we look like we're pressing and we look like we're pushing the opposition back and we're creating chances. Glad that Brian got his goal, but I think overall the team itself looked so much better second half, and it's one of those things to put your finger on it. You think he would look at that and think, right, that's my team for the next game, or that's my style for the next game. But as you know, with Gary Rowett, he never seems to do the same thing twice, even when it's effective. I think my biggest gripe in all this was, we've had Leonard playing as a centre-back this season, and he's been absolutely fantastic and holding things together and looking really good. And then for whatever reason, against a good side in Hull, he actually puts him in the midfield, and he looked a little bit lost there because there was just so many bodies in there that they were crowding each other out. And then obviously once the damage was done, he then puts him back into the back five. And to me, it doesn't matter what formation you play. If you've got players playing well, they'll play well wherever they play. If you've got players playing badly, they'll play badly wherever they play. So I think hopefully he's learning lessons as going along, and I think he might just have stumbled on a formation, a setup that works with the group of players he's got, because there is a team in there, and it's just getting the right players in the right positions. I think when Saville came on for Campbell, it made everything look a little bit tidier, a little bit easier on the eye, and it didn't stop us going forward. So, you know, that there is a group of players there who looked like they could do some damage. And I thought Bart had an excellent game, made some really good saves that kept us in it at one point. And then obviously his kicking seems to have got a lot better. And then the rest of it, I think Fleming, you could see in the first half what was happening there. His game was nowhere near what was required, the same as the rest of the team really after the first 20 minutes. But then in the second half, when we are on the front foot, I thought Fleming looked dangerous, he looked confident, and he looked like he could put himself around a bit. So for me, there is a group of players there that second half should be the template of what we use going forward, especially at home. But there's nothing stopping them doing it when we go away either. I think Gary Rowett overthinks football, thinks he's cleverer than what he is sometimes, and instead of just doing the basics well, he gets them to do things that they're not quite sure of. And then once it's all gone tits up, he then makes or reverts back to what he knows will work. So I think at the end of the game, we're all happy that we got a point out of it, but disappointed we didn't get 3. And at the same time, probably happy that it didn't get any worse than what it was. So as complicated as that all sounds, I'm not too upset the fact that we got a draw out of that, because it looked at one point where we were going to get a good hiding. So on to the international break. Hopefully people come back or people get sorted in their right positions and we can carry on. One thing I will say, I thought Casper de Norre was absolutely magnificent yesterday, sorry. And long may we keep him, and let's hope we can move further forward going forward. So that's it for me. Have a good international break. See you all on the other side. Come on, you Lions.
Big thank you to Jim. Yeah, I do agree with you, Jim. There is a team in there. There is a potential. We saw it. We've seen it in flashes over the season. We've also seen the downside, the potential to go bad, shall we say. We saw it in the game on Saturday. I do think there is a decent team in there. When you look at the players individually, there's some decent players there. I know that, you know, Danny's going through a tough time, and there may be it may be that a loan move, as I think one or two have speculated online, is the answer for him, or whether he can rebuild his confidence at Millwall. I don't know. I do think he carries a bit of a burden at the Den, and maybe a change of scene will help him. But we've touched on that already. But no, the second half performance, as you said there, Jim, I do think there's a good side potentially there. I wanted to mention Joe Bryan. We've touched on Casper de Norre, and I endorse everything everyone said about Casper de Norre. Joe Bryan, I've been a little bit not so suspicious of him. I don't think that's the right word. He is clearly a Premier League level player. He's come from that background. There was a moment in the first half where he looked like he was getting pissed off with the low quality, the low standards of those that he was playing with. But you can also see the quality of him as a player. The move for the equalising goal and the finish was top drawer. So I do think that Joe Bryan is a very good addition to our squad. I wanted to mention him because same as actually Brooke Norton-Cuffy, I've been a little bit critical of some of his end product. I still think it's an aspect of his game that I would want him to work on if I was coaching. Not that I'm going to coach anyone, listeners. You wouldn't want me coaching you. I'll tell you that much. Not in football or much else, actually, when I stop and think about it. But anyway, he does beat a man well, somehow. He gets past him. Paul Ifill style, I think I mentioned to Steve on the other show. And it's the end product with Brooke that I think just needs work. I think he's potentially a very, very good player indeed. Anyway, big thank you there to Jim Hackett. Let's move along. We'll have a little sequence of 3 messages now that have come to me via the Twitter, the X, and this is going to be Simon Hedgepig, David Lederkramer, and Joe Katz in Chicago.
Well, Simon here, aka Mr. Hedgepig. Well, better. If we can play like that for 90 minutes instead of 45, Gary Rowett may yet save his job. Danny Mack is not a championship defender. He needs to go. Thank you very much for all of your service, but it's time to go, Danny. Casper de Norre, an absolute Rolls Royce, best player on the pitch. He does it every time. Just when his back is against the wall, he pulls out a result. We need to play for 90 minutes and not for 45, Gary. Anyway, come on, you Lions.
Hi Nick, David Liederkramer here, just on the way back from the game. I think that I've just read one of your tweets about the fact that Danny McNamara is clearly not up to it, which is, I think, unfortunately something I agree with. Very sad actually, obviously, homegrown player, but really looked out of his depth in the first half and was responsible certainly for the second goal. I couldn't see the first one in terms of who was responsible, but I suspect it was him as well with the ball over the top. And it was just really a terrible first half performance. No energy, Hull were allowing them, were being allowed to just pass the ball backwards and forwards at will. Nobody really shut them down. Nisbet looked anonymous. And it was just really a very disappointing performance, particularly after we'd gone 1-0 up and the crowd were kind of up for it. The second half, of course, completely different. He brings Brooke Norton-Cuffy on, who in the first minute skins the fullback, makes a good cross, and they're under pressure. And when they're under pressure, they don't pass the ball as well. And we looked absolutely a completely different side. We looked really good. Joe Bryan looked good, nice goal. And I thought we might well go on to win it. It was unfortunate that we didn't. We had a couple of really good, quite good chances. SA comes on and does his magic. I thought though that one of the really big changing points was Bradshaw. Bradshaw comes on and he starts to hassle and hustle. And once you do that to these teams, they're not as comfortable on the ball. And of course that meant that we were more effective going forward. All in all, I think you have to be satisfied with a point after that first half performance. I think we could have got all three. I think Rowett obviously has got out of jail again to a point, but we'll see where we get to. In many ways, quite an entertaining game. First half though was a bit difficult to watch for obvious reasons, but the second half was actually quite enjoyable. Anyway, come on you Lions, and hopefully onwards and upwards.
Hello, Joe from Chicago here. What a fun, I guess, way to watch a match. Watmore actually does something, and then McNamara shits the bed twice. Feel terrible for him, love Danny Boy, but this might be one of those times where in the January window they need to look at offloading him and getting some money back, and maybe, I don't know, bringing in like a Callum Styles who's actually had some success and is continually doing well in League One with Barnsley, but that's a thought for a different day. Very much loved the fight in the second half. Still curious where Zion Fleming is. I don't like him taking these long throws and these free kicks from distance, because then he's not able to, clear up and clean out those extra chances around the edge of the penalty area. I want to see more from him. I would love it if Sarkic could hurry up and get back in the lineup, because Bart gives me a heart attack every time he tries to play the ball with his feet. But you'll take a 2-2 result, all things considered, with how the Lions played today at home. Fabulous fight from the squad. Loved Rowett screaming at Rossignor because Rossignor sucks. Like, what a loser. So, come on, you Lions. A point before the international break with getting this squad back to healthy will be crucial. Let's have Wes Harding take those long throws, especially when he's on the pitch. And, Joe Bryan is a proper footballer. My kind of guy. Have a great one. Cheers.
Huge thank you, Simon, David and Joe in Chicago. My kind of town, Chicago is. I missed the kerfuffle with Gary Rowett and Rossignor at the end of the game. Apparently there was a bit of argy-bargy. Rossignor claiming a win because he told him to shut up. They told Rowett to shut up 4 times. I've got to say, from what I've read before Gary Rowett came to the Den, I think he's a bit of a mixed martial arts merchant. I don't know if he's a fan or if he engages in the cage fighting, the Fight Club. Don't talk about it. It's a Fight Club scene, but I'm not sure. He's got that wiry look of a man I wouldn't want to have a right-hander off of. Not that I particularly want to have a right-hander off of anyone, dear listeners. I'm a man of peace and love, me. But yeah, I also love the two mental images have come out of those messages, boys. First is Simon describing Casper De Norre as a Rolls Royce. I now have that as my mental image, Simon. I'm going to probably use that one in future, mate. So I hope you haven't copyrighted that, because you'll be having royalties off of me for me describing Denora as the Rolls Royce of the side. It's a good, apt metaphor. And I can't shift Joe, Danny Mac shitting the bed twice. I wish I could. He must have some kind of digestive issue, if that's what he's been doing. But thank you for that mental picture, because it's now stuck in my head. Unwanted, but it's there nevertheless. Let's have a listen now to Bill Slack, always a favourite contributor to the show. Bill, take it away, mate.
Hello, Nick. Bill Slack. I actually enjoyed today, which is a marked improvement on where I've been. I reckon the Samaritans had a bit of a busy period for your listeners. Listening to me go on over the voicemails. I've actually had a couple of weeks off because I was bored of moaning, mate. I'll talk about Danny Mac a minute. I really didn't like what I saw and what I heard today on the pitch and off the pitch. You know, the grief that kid got from the East Upper after the second goal. I'm never for the life of me get my head round it. The kid's dropped an absolutely massive bollock. I've not watched the highlights, but Wes thought that the first goal was his fault. Second goal was obviously his fault. But he's not done it on purpose, has he? You know, he's had an absolute nightmare first half. He didn't wake up this morning, jump out of bed and think, right, I'm going to have an absolute fucking nightmare and get subbed off at half time. And I don't understand what Millwall supporters are trying to achieve by calling the kid a cunt. I don't get it. I know what we'll do. His confidence is shot to pieces. Let's cunt him off every time he goes near the ball or every time he makes a mistake now, instead of trying to get behind him. I just don't get it. And I'll tell you what I didn't like on the pitch. After that second goal, not one single Millwall player, not one single pro even fucking looked at him, let alone come up to him and say, you'll be all right, son. Pat him on the arse, ruffle his hair, let's get through to half time. Don't worry about it, Dan, we're going to be all right, mate. Mistakes happen. You see it week in and week out with professional footballers when they drop a bollock, and there was none of that today, and I didn't like it. That tells me that just did not sit right with me. Like all of you listeners, I think I'm going to have to talk about Campbell Scalak. I mean, have we had a more average midfielder with a much better midfielder sitting on the bench watching him running around doing fuck all? You know, he had a decent chance today and missed the fucking goal from 5 yards. I don't know what he does. I don't know what he brings to the team. We've got a bang average random footballer that we've signed on loan, not even ours, who's making no impact on games, and we've got George Saville sitting on the bench. If Rowett was picking him because he fits into a particular system or is incredible in a certain role in that team, then we'd have seen it by now, and we haven't seen it by now. And I'm telling you that George Saville is twice the player that he is. He's what, started 5 or 6 games now. He's up to match fitness. It is one of them Millwall mysteries, and it's bizarre. And I'm gonna say that this probably isn't that insightful, because we all see the same thing. You know, we're all singing George Saville's name from the East Upper at the end of the game because we can all see it. Strange one, mate. Strange, but listen, bit better today. I enjoyed it, and you know what I think we've proved is that when we see a Millwall performance, we recognise it and we applaud it, you know, and we appreciate it. Just like we tell Gary Rowett his football is shit when it gets too much. But let's get behind them fucking players who are wearing a shirt, eh? There's just no point in bollocking them. It just achieves nothing. Anyway, mate, see you soon. Take care. Ta-da.
Fantastic stuff, as always, by Bill Slack. Alan Campbell. I can't knock him, Bill. I don't. He doesn't turn me on, that's for sure. And George Saville very much is a player that I want to see starting. I don't understand the choice of Campbell, as you rightly say, mate. It's a lone player He's trying to get back to Luton to get into their first team whilst they're Premier League anyway. And I don't get what he's giving us that Sav doesn't. So maybe sometime Gary Rowett could explain it, because it leaves me thinking it's non-football reasons, because I don't see the football choice in that. I certainly do believe, and I wondered after the game whether I was a bit harsh in real time on saying that Campbell should have done better with that chance in the first half. He put it into the side netting rather than hitting the target or firing across the face of the goal to force the goalkeeper to bat it away, or even get a cross into Nisbet. I think was free, and I think there was one other player that I can't remember who it was, but there were players free inside the 6-yard box. He should have done a lot better than stick it into the side netting, which is what he did do. Now, I'm not here just to particularly dig out Alan Campbell, but I do think George Saville is the clear and obvious choice. We've touched on Danny Mac already, and I'm going to touch on it again. So that fuck it, it's my podcast, isn't it? So I shall touch on it again if I want to. No, I make you right. I don't like, in the moment people react, and we're all the same. We're all passionate. We're all at the game. We want Mill to win, and things slip out sometimes. All misses. That maybe shouldn't do. But I think to consistently organise a hounding of a player at home who's made a mistake, and I make you right, he didn't set out that morning to make the error. Far from it. In Danny's case, I think he probably set out in the morning to put double the amount of effort in to try and make things right, because he's Millwall, and that's what we all would do in his place. He's certainly going for a tough time of it. The point about the lack of support from the other members of the team is an interesting one. I do think there is a lack of leadership, on-field leadership, which takes us back to George Saville, that we've just mentioned. But there is a lack of leadership within that squad, and that's what goes missing sometimes. It went missing in that chaotic period. It wasn't Millwall chaos, it was Gary Rowett chaos yesterday. I am still sitting on the fence with Gary Rowett, in the sense that, he's pulled himself out of trouble with 2 decent results, Plymouth and then Saturday with a decent result in the end. I'm still not convinced that he has the leadership qualities that we are screaming out for around the squad. Like I said earlier on, I believe that James Berylson was in the house on Saturday. I dare say leaving with the good vibes at the end of the game has secured Rowett's position for a while yet. But I do make you right about supporting the side. I fucking hate, listeners, I fucking hate that stupid song of how shit must you be, we're winning at home or we're winning away or whatever. It's so moronic. It is so moronic, and the people that sing it think they're being so witty. Like, no, it's almost like, if they'd heard of Noel Coward, they're thinking of Noel Coward up in the stands singing how shit must you be, we're winning at home. It's moronic. Anyway, I've said my piece on that already. Let's have a listen to John Rankin.
Hi Nick, John Rankin here. Hi listeners, just ringing in with post-match response to our 2-2 draw at home against Hull. Lot to unpack, as the saying goes with that one. Number one, we didn't lose, and we came back from being a goal down, 2-1 down. I thought at one stage the floodgates were going to open really for Hull, and they were going to put more goals on us, and it was going to be a bit of an embarrassment. That was in the sort of latter part of the first half, middle to the end of the first half, when they were playing the ball around and we just couldn't get on the ball. We were awful. I think, my reaction to that is, and I don't want to dig certain players out, but we all know a certain defender who's one of our own, and that's happened before on many occasions. And we've got a new defender who's kind of leading the line at the moment, Wes Harding. And there was a lack of communication. They were arguing. But I think poor old Danny's head dropped after that and he lost his confidence, and Rowett did the right thing to take him off. So 2-1 down at half-time, feeling pretty deflated. No real movement up front. That was the problem. I mean, my man of the match is Casper Denore by a country mile. I mean, but he is doing the work of 2 men. I don't know what Campbell's doing in there in front of Saville or Mitchell. I don't know how. Saville and Mitchell must be looking at each other on the bench and saying, well, what have we done to warrant this? I don't know what's gone on there. Zian Fleming could have done more. He showed well against Plymouth in the week, but today sort of again drifted in and out. Got in a few commanding positions, but then, sort of bottled it really. Our front players seemed to bottle, apart from the youngsters when they come on. But more of that in the second half. So we went in 2-1 down. Didn't really know what to expect. Came out second half, absolutely brilliant, all over Hull. We had most of the possession as far as I can see. We attacked. We created lots of chances, but there was just that little lack of quality. And I was saying to some friends of mine, I don't know what the big deal was about Nesbitt. He doesn't look much to me. I've got to be honest. I'll say that hand on heart. And there was a lovely chance created down the right where we were making inroads. I think it might have been Joe Bryan or Ryan Leonard or Norton Cuffey who crossed the ball and put it right on his head. And he nodded it back to the goalkeeper like he was playing centre half for Hull. And Rowett just took him straight off after that. And I think I agree with Rowett because he had a few chances in the first half, Nesbitt. He's not particularly quick. His work ratio wasn't that good. I mean, he just hung around in the opposition D. And that's kind of, schoolboy football, really. That's cage football. And so he's got to work a lot harder, make a lot more runs and add a lot more value, I think, to even think about a place in the first team. You contrast him with Tom Bradshaw when Bradders came on. And, plenty of zip, plenty of effort. We started to rattle them. I mean, my only criticism of the setup in the second half was the fact that he didn't put someone on Seri. Seri ran that game for Hull, and I'm a big admirer of him. And he plays a deep kind of creative midfield role. He's a CDM stroke number 10, and everything goes through him. He's a bit like Perlo in that way. And you got to sit on him. You got to mark him out of the game. And we were giving him acres of space, and he was just dominating. So that would have made life easier for us, but we don't make life easy, do we, at Millwall? So the first half, you had this weird setup. I think Rowett sort of gave the first half to Hull, really. Yeah, you had Ryan Leonard pushing up, Danny Mack playing on the right, not very well, and it was all over the place on our right, down there, left-hand side. Second half, he reverted back to his back five, and it was a lot better. You had Jake on the left, Wes in the middle, Ryan on the right, and then you had Norton Cuffey and Joe Bryan, and Joe Bryan scored a beautiful goal right under our noses in the Coldblow Lane end. Took it with such, such class and quality. Cut inside and dummied, cut inside and slotted it into the goal. And it was just, I was jumping up and down for joy because it was just so nice to see a bit of quality at last, as opposed to some of the ridiculous forward play that we've been subject to, I mean, not being funny, right? Fucking hell, a Sunday pub player could have played better than our attacking up front players the last few games. At least they would have put their foot through the ball, But our front players seem to be in the habit of passing the ball back to the goalkeeper at the opposition goalkeeper. Joe Bryan, not the case, and it was just so nice to see a bit of quality. It reminded me of Benicophobe the way he took that goal. Quality, technical ability, composure, kept calm. They do say the good players, when they're in front of goal, everything goes into slow motion, They slow it right down and take their time. And, he looked like he had acres of time and it was beautiful to watch. So I thought we were going to win. And then I thought Hull might nick one in the last sort of few minutes. They were trying managing the game out. I thought the referee was a complete joke. We got nothing from him. And that seems to be the way of refs at the moment, coming down the den. But all in all, what can you say? I don't really know how to feel. I was saying to my son on the way home, well, how'd you feel? I don't know, really. Was it a loss? Was it a win? Well, it wasn't, was it? It was a draw. A draw at home, better than a loss. 4 points from the last 2 games. I think it leaves us at mid-table. So it's Rowett football, isn't it, really? But more of the second half, less of the first half. Come on, you Lions.
Thank you, John. The Kevin Nisbet question. I don't know. My naivety, maybe listeners. I've had it down that he's rushed back from injury and he's not looked sharp since he's come back from injury. Now he's a player that's been plagued with injury, hasn't he? We had that whole stop-start transfer thing with the knee. We've signed him eventually, so he must have passed muster on in terms of his overall condition. But he does seem to be sluggish at the moment. And I know that chance that you mentioned there, John, because I thought he had an opportunity. A sharper player might have got more on it. But no, he's not looked dangerous at all since he's come back from injury. I'm hoping that the international break, I can't see him being involved with the Scottish side. They did put out a tweet the other day of the Lions players that are involved in the weekend's internationals. I don't think that Nisbet is, and I can't believe that Scotland doesn't have a more sharper, dangerous-looking striker than Kevin Nisbet at the moment. I'd love for him to come good. We do. It's been a long while since we've had a good goal poacher, and that's how I see him. As I say, I don't know if I'm being naive or what, dear listeners, but he certainly looks short at the moment. Let's hope that improves. Anyway, let's have a listen now to Ben Anthony. Take it away, Ben.
Hello, Nick. Hello, listeners. Ben Anthony here, calling in as I'm just sort of recovering from my Millwall hangover, although I think the whiskey's contributed a little bit to that. Yeah, calling in after, as they say, a game of two halves, I think. But I think I want to focus on the positives a bit, because there were a lot of positives yesterday, so we should talk about them. I think after the half-time, obviously with 2-1 down, and it was nice to see, actually, Rowett made the changes. He'd clearly had a big old team talk, and he'd given them a rocket up the arse. He changed the formation a little bit, and he tinkered with the shape, and we looked so much more solid, and we looked so much more up for the game. And I think that's the thing. There was passion. The players finally showed a bit of passion, a bit of guts, a bit of fight about them. They were up in Hull's faces. They weren't letting them get on the ball, and that got the crowd involved. You could tell that the noise level was just ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And it was exactly the sort of thing that we've been crying out for. The performance in that second half is what we've been looking for, to the point that I actually think that was probably the best we've played all season, that second half. And Joe Bryan, who for me was the man of the match, deservedly, he got his goal, and really pleased for him. And I think it was, really, really good performance. A good amount of time given for Imaku. Maybe not so much given for Esse, but he's sort of building up. You can see they're hopefully building up to getting some more minutes on the pitch. And it was so nearly there, wasn't it? That through ball from Esse was sublime, and Imaku just fluffed his lines in the moment. And I'm not going to sort of criticise him for that. He knows that was a big chance, and you could see he was gutted. So, fair play to him. You got to be in the right position, and he was. So at some point that will come off, and he'll put the ball in the back of the net at the Den, and that'll be a big moment for him. And yeah, we could have won the game. But it's not always, we've kind of said this before, it's not always about the result. It's about the performance. It's about the team showing that fight, that sort of Millwall attitude, and we absolutely did that in the second half. First half, we need to find a way, and I think this is the next challenge, we need to find a way to stop that 20-minute or 15-minute, 20-minute slump where we just seem to switch off and stop playing for 10, 15 minutes, and almost invariably we concede at that time. We need to find a way to stop that, because it was a really poor couple of goals to concede, and it came from that right-hand side. I feel a little bit for Danny Mack. I think he's totally shot of confidence. And he's in a bit of a state. He had a really, really bad day at the office, and I do hope that he can recover from it and can come back again. And but we need to find a way to get him back in and get him having a good performance, because I do rate him. I think he's a good player. He's just shot of all confidence at the moment. And I think Denor played well. I think, and I think Wes Harding played well in the game. I think that's the last thing to talk about, because first half was dodgy. 2 poor goals to concede, but there was a mistake for the second goal. It was a total mix-up from a couple of players, and one of them was Harding, and between sort of Harding and Bart and Danny Mack was sort of half involved there as well. And I can't remember if that was the first or second goal. I think it was their second, and it was a bit of a shambles moment. But other than that, I thought Harding, he looks like a leader out there. He's got a voice. You can tell he's commanding of his defence. He gave Danny Mack a bit of a rocket up the arse in the game, and the players almost looked shocked that someone was doing it. Was showing a bit of leadership. But I think that's what we've needed. He pulled George Saville away from the referee at one point, and he pulled Jake Cooper away from the referee at one point, to do 2 things. It stopped him getting a booking, because I think he was going to. He looked like he'd lost his head. And the second thing is it got him back in position, because Hull were about to have a free kick, I think. So I think that's the leadership that we've been waiting for. And you just wonder what was going on, stopping him from getting on the pitch. He should be first, or one of the first names on that team sheet in a sort of defensive capacity. So I thought he was excellent. For me, man of the match was Joe Bryan. And we go again after the international break, I think. But we need more of the same. That it's the passion and the performance I want to see. And if we can do that, I genuinely believe the results will just follow. So, there you go. That's my piece on the game. All right, speak to you after the international break.
Top stuff from Ben there. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you to everyone in the show who's contributed voicemails. Do you want to contribute to the show, dear listener? Do you want to send me a voicemail? You can do it by a number of methods, really. One is to send me a direct message on Twitter. If you just go to @Achtung Millwall, you must have seen the Twitter account, X, whatever it's called now. But if you create a direct message, you can press the little sound button in the top bottom right hand corner of the message and just speak and let me have your thoughts. I'll try and include everyone that sends me any content. At this point of this show, which I really enjoy doing, actually, it's becoming rapidly my favourite part of the show, especially with the home games. We get a lot more content contributed after a home game, understandably so, than after away games. But really, anytime is always welcome, and I will always do my best to include it in the next edition of Achtung Millwall. So a big thank you to everyone. If you've got my mobile number, you can WhatsApp me. You can send a voicemail on WhatsApp, which is pretty simple to do. You can actually just call me. I tend not to answer the phone. You can just leave me an answer phone message if you go through to the phone. If I'm not expecting your call, I will answer the phone. But you know what I mean. Big thank you to Ben there. I just wanted to come back to the Wes Harding point that you made there, Ben. I do wonder what goes on behind the scenes at the Den, because we've lacked leadership. I know that Sean Hutchinson was the first choice leader on the pitch, but he's been injured for a while now, so why wasn't Wes Harding being picked? I keep having these troubling thoughts about Gary Rowett's selection policy. Is it driven by the right reasons, or is he a stubborn man that won't shift when does he find sorry being the hardest word, listeners? That's my question to Gary Rowett. Is sorry the hardest word for him? Does he admit his mistakes? I bet he doesn't. I bet he's like a lot of blokes, can't say sorry. Anyway, there we are. Also, late chance in marker. We've not touched on that. He should have done better there, Idemo, but I think you probably know that one, mate. Any road. So do send me your voicemails by hook or by crook, and I'll do my best to include them. Big thank you to everybody on today's show. We're going to play out the edition today with Matt Webb. Big thank you to Matt, and I shall be back after the Preston game, dear listeners. I should be after the Preston game. So until next edition of Achtung Millwall, from myself, Nick Hart, it's Arrivederci Millwall, and bye for now.
Hi Nick, Matt Webb here, coming back from the what you could probably call the yin and yang of Millwall 2, Hull City 2. Yin and yang. It's probably what you could describe Millwall at the moment. First half, God, I wish I wasn't there. It was shocking. I can only say that. Oh, I get that you want to trust your teams that finish a game against Plymouth. Out there, we were set up immediately to be the away team, and it showed. Okay, we got I'm going to call it a fortuitous goal in the first 10 minutes. You know, the cross came in, Watmore crossed it back in, and if it weren't for Allsop, I mean, that was a shit bit of goalkeeping from someone who knows a little bit about goalkeepers. That was poor goalkeeping from his perspective. Didn't command, it wasn't big enough, didn't command it, and it bumped into the back of the net. So, you know, all right, we went 1-0 up, which was really good. And then after that, we sat back. 10 minutes into the game, we sat back and allowed Hull to play their possessional, tippy-tappy, boring football routine. And I don't know about you or anyone else listening, I was so bloody bored watching it that I went to the toilet and got a drink, and lo and behold, I missed the first goal. And so, I mean, some people calling it was offside, some people were saying it was offside. I don't know. I really don't know, so I can't really comment. However, I could comment on the second goal. Second goal, now, okay, Danny Mack didn't have the best of halves, getting booked, and therefore he had to be cautious of what he did. And to head that ball, that can only stem from having no communication from the keeper, from Bart, in my eyes anyway. The trajectory of the ball comes over at a decent pace, and it is up to the goalkeeper to say, you know, my ball, leave it, whatever you want to say. I don't know. But he needs to let the fullback or any person in front of him to let him know that he's there. And whether that was either A, miscommunication, or B, pure and simply don't trust your goalkeeper, I don't know. But if it was A, which is miscommunication, then the fault lies with Bart with that second goal, because he should have called loud and hard to let Danny Mack know that ball was coming over. But if it's the second one, then there is a serious issue with Millwall at the moment, in terms of like trusting your back line. So who knows? But we go in 2-1 down. The atmosphere was shit. You know, everyone was booing. I get that. It was not a good game, not a good half. You know, and it comes to a point where I think most fans we've gone past the booing stage and just thought, oh, fucking hell, here we go again. Another defeat looming at home. Second half, he makes the changes. And do you know what? He made the right changes. I'll take my hat off to him. You know, Cuffy came on for Mac. Had to be done. And I can't remember who was the other person that came on at half time. Oh, Bradshaw came on. Bradshaw came on for Watmore. So then he went for the 2 up top, which is, you know, that's all we asked for. That's all we asked for. We're playing at home. Let's have 2 up top. And we showed a little bit of fight. We got a goal back by playing it on the floor, which is nice. And again, Casper to Noor. Fucking brilliant. Great acquisition to the club. Absolutely fantastic acquisition. Through ball, through to Bryant. Bang. 2-2. Loved it. Brilliant. And then he introduced Saville. That was right. He introduced Saville to the team, and you could just tell that the aura around the place just lifted. The atmosphere lifted because of George Saville's attitude and desire came on. And that's what we wanted. So as much as I don't give, well, I'm probably not a few, I'm actually in the majority that Campbell is not a starter for Millwall at the moment. Saville has to start, and it shows on that pitch because he lifts the team 100%. And we could have won that today. We really could have won that today. However, the first half, it killed us. It really did. And, you know, who do we point the finger at? Well, you could point the finger at the players, or you could put the finger at the manager. Either way, the first half was just an absolute shit show. And We need to learn from that as a club that we are a 90-minute team, not a 45-minute team. Special mentions, though, today. Wes Harding, God, you could tell he's a leader at the back. He's a colossus, and I'm listening to Fizz and my brother Jim, how great he was against Plymouth. Well, you could see today that he was a unit at the back, and you've got to take your hat off to it. Casper De Norre, again, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Without him, our midfield would be absolutely shit. And you've got to take your hat off him. Then he put 2 up top. And, the likes of Bradshaw coming on really was good. And then Imaku, the energy up front was brilliant. Their keeper, Ryan Allsop, we had him on our books. He's shit. He was at fault for the first goal, and he looked really rickety at the back. And we should have put pressure on him. And we did. In that second half, we put so much pressure on them that they didn't know how to handle it. And you know what? It was good. And then we bring in SA and Imaku combination. Again, look, exciting. Bring on the talent, as we say. Okay? But that's me done after my post-match predictions. Ronnie, have you got anything to say?
It was a really opposite game of opposite halves.
Opposite halves, as we got it.
Sorry.
So yin and yang of Millwall.
I think that it was really weird because attacking wise, we done well in the first half, awful, not great in the second. But defensively, in the first half, we didn't look great, but in the second half, flipping hell, we were brilliant.
I hope you got that, Nick. Yep. Yin and yang of Millwall, we got to love it. So we have 2 weeks off now. On to Preston at lunchtime. 4 o'clock in the morning, the coach leaves. Come on, you Lions.
Achtung, Millwall.
The answer to today's punditgames.co.uk question, dear listeners, this is an Ipswich legend, played 42 times for England in the early 80s, through the 70s and 80s. Early 80s, 591 appearances for Ipswich, 1966 to 82, 22 goals for the Tractor Boys. It was, of course, Mick Mills, he of the mustachioed visage. Mick Mills of Ipswich played for England in the 82 World Cup. Thank you for listening to today's show. Do check out Pundit Games at punditgames.co.uk. All profits made from sales of Pundit Games help the Lions Food Hub. Arrivederci Millwall. Bye for now.